Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this Plans B meeting of Harpenden Town Council's Planning Advisory Committee. If I can just explain before we start, as I explained before all my planning meetings for the town, we are here purely in an advisory capacity. We have no power. Anything we say is conveyed to the district council, but they sometimes listen to what we say. I sometimes think, sometimes they don't. We can do no more than pass comments to it. In the long run, the decision will be taken by our officers at the district council, except for any planning application that gets called in to the Plans North planning committee. This is a committee of 8 councillors from Redbourne, Wheathampstead and Harpenden that look at a small percentage of the controversial planning applications, can I put it, that need to be discussed by a committee, sometimes agreeing with our officer's recommendation, sometimes not. I should say I sit on that Plans North committee, so on the ones that I know that are likely to come to Plans North, I don't personally discuss them too deeply because it may contravene me speaking at the Plans North committee. I will allow, I'm not too tight with the 3 minutes speaking tonight, but I would be grateful if those who are speaking can come up to the table here when I ask them and keep it to around 3 minutes. We don't normally ask questions unless we want clarification of anything, but I'm happy to answer anybody's points. If you'd like to raise anything, I'm here to help and guide you in any way I can do on the planning system. Okay. So with no more ado, I'll start off and we commence back up. Right. So apologies for absence.
This time we have apologies from Councillor Kelly.
Okie dokie. We didn't get a replacement, so there's just 3 of us here tonight. Thank you. Do we have any declarations of interest? No? Thank you. Right. Are you all happy with me signing the minutes for 19th September meeting? Thank you. Do we have any public questions?
No, okay.
Good. Right. Straight on to nitty-gritty evening. So, first of all, we'll do 13 Martin's Close, which on our agenda is page 9. Thank you very much. Page 9. This is for a 2-storey side extension to create 2 one-bedroom flats, a detached 3-bedroom dwelling with associated landscaping and a new crossover, 13 Whiting's Close, Harpenden. I realise we've got one speaker, which is Mr. Kluwer. If you'd like to I know you did this before. You know
Yeah,
this before. And have your say.
So we'd previously applied for the refurbishment of the existing house and the construction of 6 apartments. However, given the objection of residents and the town council previously, we withdrew that application immediately after a town council meeting. Since then, we have met with residents and we've developed a scheme which responds as far as we think we are able to their feedback. To remind you, Whiting Close was a dilapidated 3-bedroom semi-detached property. It's located in a cul-de-sac of similar properties, and the existing house had 1 parking space provided. The new application is in 3 parts: the refurbishment of the existing house and the creation of 2 off-road parking spaces for that property, an extension to the existing house of similar size and design to 3 other existing extensions in the road, and that extension will be subdivided into 2 apartments with associated parking at the rear. And the remaining garden will then accommodate a new 2-bedroom chalet bungalow, much smaller in size than we have previously submitted, with associated parking. Aside from reducing the number of dwellings, following the comments on the previous application, we've staggered the new extension backwards and lined it up with number 14, which was a comment, retained the existing front wall to the new block, lowered the roof line of the extension property, amended the new building to a chalet bungalow with a much lower roof line, and because of the fall on the site, that it accommodates a much lighter street scene. Provided more separation from number 12 through accommodating parking to the side of the new property, and shown the rear hedges retained, but also a new fence to provide privacy to number 14 in response to a request. We've reduced the current parking numbers, but retained sufficient spaces to meet the parking standards. And we've provided a more appropriate front drive to number 13, which retains the cul-de-sac turning end, which was a comment made at times the last time we met. We've also included turning provision on site. That's not turning provision to the extent of what we have in the requirement of a parking, but it at least gives the ability for people not to go and reversing out of the driveway, which was a response from previous. So in total, we'll create 7 parking spaces, an increase of 6 over the existing house, also accommodating cycle storage and bin storage, and all within sight. It's also provided as a bus stop within 100 metres to get to town as well. The site accommodates the necessary garden for the house and for the bungalow. An additional amenity space for the apartments is then provided via front and rear community space. In addition, the site abuts a wide footpath, giving a feeling of space to give with access to the countryside at the rear. The designing ethos remains the same, to keep the same vernacular brickwork and a window treatment to make sure that this is as small an impact on the road as possible. And I would just remind again what I said in the past. I think much of the infill development in Harpenden is expensive, overpriced properties, and we are really trying to produce properties which are suitable for a budget that can accommodate people staying in town. And that accommodates both the flat and also the 2-bedroom chalet bungalow at the rear now. So I accommodate that too.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Let's get back to your seat. Committee comments.
Well, I think it's a big improvement on what was before. Just a little bit worried about the space for vehicles to come out of this opening here. But there was also, this is a very small point, but there was a point that the house doesn't have space for 3 bins. A minor point, I guess, actually. But I think it's providing the sort of accommodation that Harpenden needs, really, from the neighbouring plan. So I feel we should permit it. But I'm just a little bit, my only concern is really the amount of space here next to this public footpath. That was it.
Okay, thank you. Great.
I've nothing to add to that. I'm assuming that shouldn't assume anything for a start. Does the width of the access actually meet up with the criteria?
they'd ever get a removal van down there. There's been no objections at the moment, although I've just heard tonight that one of the other district councillors has raised some points with the planning committee regarding his concern on a couple of aspects. I haven't heard any more details, it only came through half an hour ago.
So I've visited the site and it does look narrow when you're there.
Right, absolutely. Unfortunately, we've got no influence on that.
But
so we can say subject to access. I mean, the only concern I had with this number of properties is where do the bins stay on the day of the dustbin men come. Excuse that, refuse collectors. I wouldn't want to be number 12 and have 9 bins. 3, 6, 8 bins outside my front. Or indeed 6 caddies.
Yes. Well, also someone very elderly living there, then the refuse collectors come and collect it, and they've got some way to go to collect it.
Yeah, we needed that. And the other thing is the responsibility of the house would be to get the bins down to the front every morning, because obviously the bin lorry wouldn't come down.
Yes.
So it would be, I mean, that is a concern. It's nice to see that we now have they haven't got a reverse out of the close, that we can now turn around on the side.
Yes.
So, if we say, in principle, we're not against it, as long as the access distance and provision for the waste bins collection and wherever they're going to be put is clarified. Because there's nothing in the access statement that actually explains that at the moment.
No.
So are you happy with that?
That's good.
So just, Mr. Clear, if you just understood what we said.
I did, yes.
In principle, we're not against it. I would just like the district council to clarify that this width from the path to the main house is acceptable for what they need for vans and that to get by without destroying the fence and the footpath, and also a bit more clarification on the bins, where they're going to be put and all this. But that's not for us to discuss tonight. That's for the district council to raise with your good self before they make their decision.
No, I'll make that clear.
Okay, so it's not clear on the information. So I know they've come back to you and told you how many bins are going to be there.
Yeah.
But my concern is where they're going to go.
Yeah, no, indeed.
At the front. I do think that needs clarifying as far as the district council is concerned.
We will make that.
But I think the officer may raise that with you anyway. So that's as far as we can go tonight in our thoughts.
That's something.
Okay? Thank you for abandoning the last one and putting in this one, which is a bit more easy to accept. Right, so that one we can get by. Thank you. Right.
Thank you.
So what we do now is Randall Park. So we've got one person speaking about that. Thanks very much. My license, please. If you can ask, there's no objections on the interview. There's nothing on there yet, so I don't understand if all these people are interested, why they haven't put that.
I think they probably have. I don't know.
Okay, well, what we can do is...
That's right, yes.
You can't address them if you don't know.
No, I don't know of any concerns. I may have one raised about 20 minutes ago. Right, we're now on to up now.
page 14.
Right, we've got page 13 on our agenda, everybody's seen it. We're doing single-storey rear extension with roof lights, following removal of the conservatory, first floor side extension and alterations to the roof, incorporating a new gable to the front and dormers to the rear, to facilitate conversion of the loft space to habitable accommodation. Conversion of the garage to habitable accommodation, new porch and alterations to the openings at 15 Ramwood Park. I believe we've got one speaker here tonight, Mr. Bridgman, who wants to come and speak against this application. So, you've seen the system, yes, and you've got your 3 minutes. We don't time you, leave it in your hands.
My wife and I have lived in 13A Boundary Park, next door to 15, since it was built in 1967, 50 years ago. We put in a formal comment by email. I've got a copy available if you'd like to receive it. To summarise our main objections, basically, the worst is the loss of light from our dining area, which is given from a side window on the ground floor. We refute the applicant's assertion re the loss of light. They've said that we have, in effect, lost our outer right by not doing something. We refute that. The single-storey extension, which was added on in the 80s, has little effect. We now presently get good light from the sky and direct evening sunshine in the evenings in the summer. Surely this must be the starting point for considering any additional impact. Loss of light to the first floor. The sole window, again it's a side window, almost above the one we've been speaking of. The sole window on the stairs and landing, and the landing goes back away from the window for a distance of 4.5 metres from the window. In both the application is inaccurate. In both of those above, the application is inaccurate regarding the proximity of the boundary. It is much nearer on the 15 side to our boundary than our house is to the boundary. There's only 1 foot 7 inches at the back of the garage to the boundary, and opposite our windows there's just 5 feet to the wall under the windows. That's including the width of our path, which is a straight parallel path. In contrast with Roundwood Park, it is generally out of character and general scale. The extension would in effect fill the gap between the properties, giving a terrace effect, which is not typical of Roundwood Park, where the houses are well spaced with trees and other views between. Regarding the second floor extension, the flat roof dormer windows at the rear, almost up to the main ridge of the house. They're not shown at the front, but on the back they go up, giving us a 3-storey effect. And loss of privacy in the gardens at 13A by the views given from these windows into 13A and 17 on the other side. There's no garage provision for a house that's as large as this one, which would suggest that over the years the front garden will become a car park with many cars in it, and again affect the street scene, which is adequate. Most of the houses in Roundwood Park have one garage, two garages. Ours has got a double length one. I think that really summarises it. There's a picture there of the...
We've got a copy of...
You've got a copy, have you? Yes.
Of
You can see that one where there's tall windows on the back there.
As I said earlier, we're only here in an advisory capacity.
Sure.
We'll have our discussion amongst ourselves now. With your comments and with all the research that we managed to do before tonight's meeting, and make our recommendations to St Albans, we will make the ultimate decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Okay, well, I visited the property and I saw the windows on 13A. You can see they would be impacted, so there's a lesson in immunity 13A from this extension.
Right. Okay.
Also, I did make a note at the time, just comment about parking. There isn't a lot of parking, but of course they're quite wide houses. You could really transform the front garden into a car park, really. So I think you could get round it, actually. In terms of street scene, the house on the right, number 17, has got normal windows sticking out the front, so which is quite tastefully done. So, you know, modifying 15 doesn't affect the balance of 15 and 17 because it's already slightly imbalanced.
Right.
So, the thing when I looked at this, I could see there was a lot of immunity to 13A, and also from the loss of privacy from these. But in terms of pure planning, I couldn't see something to say refused at this stage.
Right.
Unless someone can come up with something.
Well, we've got this 45-degree.
We've got 45
degree
degrees.
onto these windows. If they're
Yes. Yeah.
Obviously, we can't tell on the diagrams we've got because it doesn't access next to the windows, so we can't see. We need the guidance directly from the district on that.
I can also see it is quite narrow.
Yeah.
Gap from the boundary to 13.
Yes. Only needs to be 3 feet these days.
Yes, that's right. Yes. So
that's between building to building, not to boundary. So
I've got an open mind
right now. Well, we can.
There's a discussion.
Chris?
Well, I'm concerned about the distances. There seems to be a variance from the front to the back, but if the building is slightly askew on the plot, that's so be it. But the number of bedrooms and the parking, I don't think I can have anything new to the conversation.
We can say we are concerned with the impact and the loss of privacy under 13A.
That's right. Yes.
And the possible loss of light.
Yes.
To how can we put it? Habit of the windows? No, it's not habit of the roof, isn't it? Yeah, landing walks, extend stair set. Yeah, so it's a
safety issue.
Yeah, so we can have to this. So we're concerned for the loss of privacy and proximity to 13A. And what's the right language? Sorry, you got the on yours, on your notes. Did you actually write it?
I was concerned about doing it last week at the year.
Yeah, well, I think the loss of privacy with the Juliet darkness.
Yeah, 50 impact on the neighbour's side windows and have
Yeah, and that. So,
detrimental impact.
detrimental impact. You happy with that?
Absolutely, yes.
Well, I can see the gentleman's point of view because when these houses were built, they were big plots, and so
Half is being sold off.
Yeah, that's right. They were designed so that light could come in from the side, whereas on denser housing estates, they don't put windows in. Generally, they design for light, you know, whereas this one's already, you know, the house is as it is. So I think those words you said.
So we're going to, what we're going to say is, we're concerned
Yeah,
with the impact
that's right.
on the, well, it's both native property for the Juliet balconies, but
Yes,
serious impact on number 13A because of its close proximity.
that's right, yes. Yes, that's right.
And the other bit is, have we got anything on the parking comment on that one? We're not conservation area, it's difficult. But I've always got comments come up there about concern over street scene and turning a front garden into a car park rather than it being what it is in the garden.
Concerned about the loss of the garage anyway,
Yeah.
that can come up to
Yes.
Yeah. Fine,
Can we
go
add
for
that
that
to
one.
it? Yes, yes. I don't want to force people to turn front gardens into car parks.
No.
Well, that would change the street scene.
Yes, it would,
Because
yeah.
it's very leafy, the whole avenue.
So, I don't know whether you heard enough of that, Mr. Bridgman.
Some
Sorry,
bit.
what we're saying in our report to the District Council, that we are concerned on the impact on your good self and indeed number 17, but especially for yourself, for your house, because of the close proximity to it. We're concerned about the loss of life and indeed the loss of privacy by the Juliet balcony, new windows they're planning at the rear. So, and obviously the loss of light on your side window. As I said before, we can't do any more.
Yes.
We can only put those comments forward. I'm sure the St Albans planning officer will do a much more detailed report,
Surely.
which way he'll go, how long's a piece of string.
Well, the house was already extended towards us as a single story,
Yes.
which we didn't object to at the time it was done. We felt it would have been unneighbourly to
Yes.
put inconvenience in their way. And
Yes, two
Marginally,
stories is
hardly effective.
very
is that?
difficult. But I understand completely what you're saying.
To put a,
We've had our say,
yes,
and that's really as far as we do in an advisory capacity.
yes, I understand.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks for coming, and I hope that we've gone our way.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yes, many thanks.
that's okay. Keep that in your notes. And back in your notes. Thanks a lot. Thanks. Right, this next one, which is in case you two. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Right, everybody else is for Wordsworth, are they? Yeah. Those of you who I managed to reply to sent me emails. Thank you very much. I had about 2 phone calls, and I know the council had them. When the council get an email, they forward them to me. So I had an exciting weekend with one way and the other. We don't actually, if I could just, I didn't say this in front of everybody else, we don't specifically refuse to discuss anything that's on the agenda. Obviously, we decided recently that because we have no power, certain things that come up, like colour of bricks, we have, which quite often come up in conditions, we don't need to spend half an hour discussing how long's a piece of string, which we, so we did extract from our planning here, as we've got no power, the applications that we thought didn't need. As soon as a member of the general public raises any comments on anything that's actually on the agenda, we will change the wording on our at the end, saying we will discuss it on the night. So please, if I did reply to you, fair enough. If I didn't, I apologise, but I did read all your emails.
No, you did reply. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
you're
We
welcome.
did, yeah.
So thanks very much for coming. I sure know what you're going to say because I've read all the letters, but please, you've got your 3 minutes anyway. Please, have the courtesy of coming, have your say.
Yes, so it's about application 2723. We are objecting to it. I'm here on behalf of my wife and I, and Mr. and Mrs. Palmer from number 12. I also note there's, I think there's 5 objections online in the SADC against this application. The application is for removal of conditions 12 and 14, which are about tree protection and about tree planting requirements on the original approval for a new building, the garden of number 29. This is in the C1 conservation area, and in the original application, we obviously objected and were disappointed it was granted, but it was granted despite Mr. Alex Lorry sending an architectural report, a landscaping report, recommending refusal. What happened then was the planning advisor and lots of people lobbied to have the requirements included as conditions of planning. That was then given conditional approval. We were disappointed about that. And it didn't even go to committee, which we were disappointed about. But it was granted planning with those conditions. What this application is now trying to do is to remove the conditions which retain as much amenity value as there is left in the site, which to us is we would like you to recommend refusal, please, on the grounds that it loses its amenity value, and the conditions were approved as part of the original application. And this is, saying this is procedure, which it said, is close to misusing the process, really. They should just comply with the conditions.
First of all, I will apologise that the original application wasn't called in by one of your district councillors. If you received my email, you will know that I've advised you this should be called in. I don't know whether anybody's managed to get hold of a councillor who's agreed to do it yet. Can I assure you that if you haven't, I will call this, well, in fact, the other heritage councillor, who's your county councillor, will call this in tomorrow.
Okay.
I can't call it in after tomorrow because unfortunately I'm away on Thursday and Friday, so I don't want to risk missing the deadline on Friday for the calling date.
Much
So
appreciated.
I can assure you, if it's not on the internet by tomorrow, from one of the other councillors, I will do this for you. I don't usually make this promise, but because of the interest, that's as much as I can say tonight. Now, with that in mind, I'm very reluctant, other than having a very basic discussion tonight, to get into too many details of it, because it jeopardises me having my say at the full planning committee on Plans North, which will be in 2 or 3 months' time. Now, what I would say is, in guidance to that, as and when it comes to the planning committee date, one of you would be allowed 3 minutes to have their say in front of the district council planning committee. Okay, so all of you need to get your heads together and decide who wants to volunteer to sit before the jury at St Albans and have their say on that particular matter. Now, this would not happen next week or anything. It takes a couple of months to get there. Obviously, I get the agenda all the time, but it's difficult sometimes for me to ring round and tip people off if they need to organise themselves to get there.
Okay, so we'll definitely thank you very much for the call in.
So it will be called in. I would rely normally, as I said, the protocol is the actual district councillor whose patch it's on should call it in. In this particular instance, the 3 councillors sometimes don't get around to calling it in, and therefore I can do it by the back door method.
No, I appreciate that. So we'll obviously keep an eye out for that and give you a little prod.
Yes, indeed. Well, as I said, I'll do.
Is there any chance of the committee?
No, we will discuss it now. Obviously, we only knew it was going to be on the agenda first thing this morning when I got a chance to speak to, and I spoke to Heather yesterday, the planning officer, and Mim this morning. But we will have a quick discussion now anyway on I know a little bit about the background to it, but I'll assist my colleagues with. And obviously it's very obvious the reason there's no access to this site except for a mini digger, because he cannot get any other kinds of building things past these trees. So I know the reason why the developer's trying it on, I personally can't say much more. Okay, but so I don't know whether you've got a chance to look at this and I'll give you the facts.
I've looked at all the internet objections, 5 of them.
Yes.
This
Well, obviously I've got we've both had emails all weekend.
But I downloaded and looked at the application. As the gentleman said, it says conditions removal. It says please state why you wish the conditions to be removed or changed. And it says here procedural issue which relates to the discharge of condition number 15. Well, in my mind, that isn't enough description of why something should take place. So, from my point of view, the person hasn't written the real reasons of, to me that would be a refusal because what's a procedural issue? It's quite important to get these things right. So that was my take on it. I sympathise with everyone in the trees. I could see that it was granted with the conditions that these trees would remain, and then that's all that's written down for removing them. And so, to me, to my mind, they haven't given them good enough reason.
Taking seconds fight, I go with that totally. This is one of those types of application I quite clearly stated that irks me, that people spend a lot of time in doing conditions and the rest of it, and then we get people coming straight back and trying to bite them out, and it's back to try to go for the original that would be refused by the back door, and so definitely refused on my part.
Okay, thank you very much, Rod, for your research. Now, if I can just guide the public who are here, obviously these trees are at the rear of this property. I'm relying on you as neighbours, any kind of because unfortunately I'm not telling tales out of turn or anything. Developers are notorious for doing things by stealth. They'll say, well, the trees fell down, or the digger knocked them down, or something. But I would rely very much on your eyes and ears, please, to either warn me or warn enforcement at the District Council if there is any suggestion that these trees are being removed prior to them coming to the Council in that respect. Unfortunately, I can't look at the back of properties and watch what's going on, so I'm relying a lot on you. I'm always at the end of a phone wherever I am in the world, or email. I would get a message straight away through to planning enforcement, although you're probably as quick to tell planning enforcement that the builders, I can't say things doing things illegally, yes, I think is correct. The punishment for cutting down a tree without permission, when it has this kind of protection on it, is about £1,000 a tree. So it can be quite severe. But if somebody's making £1 million on building a house, perhaps to them they'd take a risk. But unfortunately, I don't live in a perfect world. So that's as far as we can do. I've made my assurance for you. I'll follow that through, and we'll do what we can.
Thank you very much indeed.
Sorry, I didn't read them. Sorry. Well, we would recommend that the application for the removal condition is refused. So we recommended that we call Sorry, can you just tell me, are you just sitting in on the meeting?
I haven't been to a planning meeting for so long.
Oh, right.
It's kind of been really boring and refreshing my memory as to what happened. So just don't mind me. And at some point I will decide I've had enough and leave.
No. If there was something particularly you wanted to discuss, I'll happily talk to anybody.
No, that's fine.
As you realise, I try to help everybody. Because that's why I'm here.
They all look quite interesting, and I've crossed out lots. So at some point I will decide I've done enough and I'll go.
Okay, no problem at all. Right, so I didn't put the planning application number on that, I'm terribly sorry, because it was a condition rather than not very often we get one of those. But we know it's 5/2723, you're happy with that, so I didn't do it formally. I mean, are you all happy with that? We actually look at that system in that respect. I mean, it would be called in if the officer was meaning to agree to the
Removal.
removal. If the officer says no, it doesn't come to
You
committee.
need to explain that to people.
Well, yes, there's no need to come to committee. So if the officer is minded to grant, we would come to committee. If the officer's minded to refuse, he doesn't need to.
Oh, I see, yes, makes more sense.
Because then it could be swapped. If it comes to committee, you never know which way they're going to go. Are you with me?
Yes.
So there's no need to come to committee.
Yes.
So I didn't explain that correctly, but I can explain that to them.
Okay.
So if the officer recommends refuse, that's it, it's refused, so we don't
Yeah.
need to...
It well defeats the object of having a committee meeting. Right, looking at the page, so we go back to page 9, we've done items closed.
Yep.
You're happy with our recommendation, we're back to top page 10 now for Springfield Crescent. There is insufficient
Sorry, we
parking.
missed out 9 Grant Gardens.
Sorry, which one?
Oh, it's just no objection.
No, yeah, all right, sorry.
Right, okay, so I beg your pardon,
So-
Mr. Chairman, under delegation list,
Yeah, sorry.
there's no objection.
Nine Grant Gardens. Anybody got any comments on Nine Grants? My apologies, Chris. Yes, you're right. Sorry.
If you have problems with delegation.
Yeah. No, I'm happy with that one. And indeed, I was happy with. We're on top of page 10 now. The car parking.
Yeah, it's just the first time for a meeting.
Yeah.
No other protocol is for
I'm
the
happy.
future, thank
I'm
you.
happy. No. So again, car parking is the problem on Springfield Crescent.
I've got nothing additional.
Nothing else that needs to add? Right, no. Right, Clarence House, 2-storey side and rear extension. Again, subject to use of materials. I'm happy with that. It's a big house anyway, so
Yeah.
so, right, on to page 11. Right, 23 Grove Avenue. Okay, this is 5/2017-2661, demolition of existing bungalow and construction of 2 3-bedroom semi-detached dwellings. Resubmission following withdrawal of the previous one, 23 Grove Avenue. It was withdrawn because the officer told the applicant that it was going to be refused. So rather like Whiting's Close earlier, when they got a feeling the officer's going to refuse it, they sometimes withdraw it. They can put another application in.
So that's basically deciding what they're going to do.
I mean, in my mind, the only problem is this is a bungalow between 2 bungalows. So on street side, it will look a little bit.
Yeah, can I say a few things?
So please, yeah.
Because I've visited this site, there are 4 objections on the internet, and they're all around the fact that it is it's a bungalow in the middle of other bungalows, and on the opposite side of the road they're all bungalows, and there's no doubt they're becoming a rarity, bungalows, and but in terms of what you can do in terms of planning, my main concern was really the height of the roof, actually, because when I looked at the street scene, it's huge. Now, further down along the road, on the right here, there are along semi-detached properties, and it trouble is I wasn't able to get a direct comparison of roof heights. Do you know what I mean?
It's difficult.
But it's just, I can't believe the roof height is going to be that big. It just doesn't look in proportion.
So we've got the ground plan.
They're all there, should be all there.
Yeah.
Looking this way, so always have problems with looking at them properly on the.
I felt that there could be a loss of immediacy to adjoining adjacent bungalows but there is a bit of space between them.
I'll turn this one around and say, how does this application mitigate the previous reasons for refusal?
Well, I
Well,
think,
it wasn't refused, it got withdrawn because it was too high.
yeah, and the roof height, when I measured it, appeared to be the same as last time.
That's always difficult when it's impending refusal.
Um,
It's a shame that people have the opportunity to withdraw once they've got an indication it's going to be refused.
So I thought the roof was too big, but I couldn't see dimensions or comparisons.
Is the roof height too big? Because after the development, they'll apply for 2 rooms in the loft.
Yes.
That's why I was asking for the
Yeah.
plans, and
Because
there aren't
there
any, and that's going to be next stage.
Because these days people tend to build roofs in such a way that then when they raise the roof, it's
Just
automatically
you see
built.
that in this street scene here, you can see this one here with a roof height drawn there, whether this is in scale or not, but that roof height is lower than this. That distance there is less than this roof height. So it just seems to me that
We've got a slight uphill climb there as well, haven't we?
yeah, so well, I thought it was like recommend refusal for the roof height, but I don't know if there's, can't see.
Trying to push it up, I couldn't actually see it before. But how is this one materially different to the previous application?
These are the three.
There's both, if you look at
The other one had windows in, I think, the roof height last
Yeah.
time. But as you said, they kept the same height, just take the windows
it
out.
doesn't have windows here, it just seems,
I refer to my comment made earlier.
Well, that was definitely 3 stories, you see, as far as I'm concerned, there's no question about
yes,
it.
With bulk size making the street scene.
yes.
Because there's only 2 parking spaces, I think, isn't there?
Yeah,
Two per dwelling, which is
Yes.
why they're saying 3 bedrooms.
Yes.
Immediately we agree to it, then you come at an option to do.
Yes.
I mean,
And would that come under committee different?
no,
Ask me
but
a
we could
question,
put, we obviously could put a condition on that with the limited car parking, a condition should be that no consideration would ever be given for permission to have
That's a should permission.
accommodation.
Granted, because I'm saying
Yes,
refusal first.
yeah.
I agree with
So concern for the roof height,
yeah.
and because if you can't use the roof
Yes.
anytime in the future, might as well bring the height of the roof down.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, because to the people living opposite in the bungalows, this is a huge dwelling slapped in front of them.
It's out of keeping with the street scene.
There is
It's out.
one of the ones opposite has got a planning application already granted to do a similar thing. There is already one more in the road. I can't remember what number it is.
The question is, is it the same roof height? then?
They're talking about the same roof height, but
Yeah.
certainly has a but so concern regarding the roof height. If permission was granted, a condition should be that how can we put it? It should have a condition that no consideration would be given to accommodation within the roof space due to the lack of parking provision.
Yes,
Are you happy with that?
Well, I would like it, I mean, basically a repeat of what we said before.
Is that what you said? I can't remember.
Oh, so,
I was reading it, yes. Over the site, we had to keep it in the street scene because it was increased in height. Yeah.
And we could preface it with fails to adequately address the previous concerns.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yes.
That's very good.
And
These, and then repeat that one
So are we still...
with the additions. Yes, I think.
well, we're raising concern. I'm reluctant to say categorically no, because I'd rather say give them a chance to come back and say, all right, if I can't use the roof.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm concerned about the loss of a bungalow.
Yes.
So that is not a planning reason.
No. Yeah.
Right, so what was the bit that you said is permission granted, the condition should be,
Condition would,
Lost space could be not be made
You're
habitable.
picking up
yes,
Sorry.
the lost space cannot be used for habitable accommodation due to the lack of parking. Because I can see this 3-bedroom, next thing you know you've got 5 bedrooms.
Yes.
It's fairly obvious what the intent is.
Yeah. It is, I hadn't realised before. I did get a phone call this asking me to call it in because of the fact that, but I'll be calling it in for the wrong reason now. Because I hadn't got the plans in front of me when the original application was done, because it's around the corner from us. But it's so many of these that a fourth lot of bungalows pulled down and 2 semi-split. This is extreme. If that plan is correct, it is hugely high. Is that okay? So we would want that condition put on.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'll probably be told round up by the applicant. But it's so difficult to when there's only 2 parking spaces. How do you look at it?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Right. Advertising consent next. I'm not too worried about that. Appropriate materials being used. Give it a try. No, that's fine. Right, to be considered by the committee. 6 November's Avenue. Creation of rear basement, single-storey side extension, 2-storey rear extension, and replacement and raising of roof to incorporate additional loft space with front and side dormer windows, additional roof lights, and associated landscaping works following demolition of the existing 2-storey rear extension at 6 St Andrews Avenue. Right. Any plans come?
Yes. This one, it was given a new height.
It's taken the roof down to lift the height even more, haven't they? Made it up.
Yeah, raising the road to incorporate additional. Could you just got turning road?
Trying to look at these actually on
I know.
iPad. God, it's just.
I missed this one because I'm in view, actually.
You missed this one?
Yeah, I didn't...
I'm thinking of what was just like that was possible. Right, so how does the side extension refuse into
mean, it does seem very high, but I don't know what the place is next door.
Street scene would be useful. So it's on a corner plot.
It's on a big plot.
Yeah.
Is that the existing one? Or is that the same one? This is the house, is it? Well, this is what it's going to look like next door. Because that's the existing one, and that hasn't got chimneys, it's still got new chimneys, so. That's not this one.
No, that's the neighbour one.
Right, so really the probably the neighbour one. The neighbour's 3 stories with these big chimneys.
Yeah. The proposed includes extension of the main roof to cover the existing separation of front arm. Vertical transformation of the window at the front door for the
They're quite unique, aren't they, all of these houses, really? In fact, you could raise the roof on that one, not necessarily...
Yeah, it could be similar to what we've done there.
Yes.
But is that one extended?
It's spruce in this height. Yeah.
They are.
The chimneys and the rest of it, I'd say that one was original.
How many car parking spaces have we got? Because I think it shows 2. As it goes, that's only 3. I think there's about 8 bedrooms, huh? I'm getting away with like calling them an office and a study and a...
Yes, that's right, yes.
Yeah.
That's the basement.
Change that criteria to habitable rooms.
Yeah, and then we go up to... So do we see a number of the bedroom?
It's only got 5.
5, so that's 3 parking spaces.
Yeah.
That's not complying. What's happening to the garage? I've got you in there, so the garage stay.
See, they are raising, it says they are to incorporate additional loft space in front and side door windows, so we've put a stipulation on there as one that should be used for habitable space.
This is their little store there. Oh, okay. Sorry, that was a bit long. Yeah, okay, so they're doing their little store there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Little store there.
They've just put the roof on that basically.
Yeah, they're changing the roof line there. No, I see they're changing the roof line there.
Adding chimneys all over.
Well, so when it comes back to the original comment, it is to a certain extent unique, but it is coming into line with what's next door.
It is.
Yeah.
So on that, I've got difficulty of saying that.
As long as the garage is used as a garage.
We could just express concern over adequate parking.
Yes, we could. In principle, not against,
No.
as long as...
Sorry, are we not got a detached garage shown on there? There's different, here.
That's number 3.
That's next door.
Oh, sorry, big sorry.
That's next door, that's next door.
Okay,
Yeah.
right, there.
Yes, so, because there's this garage here, as long as...
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry,
Yes, so we could say concern for the parking element and the condition for this should be that the garage can only be used.
Is that the garage there? It's still going to be the right size?
Well, I don't know but the garage can only be used for the storage of a motor car.
Yes. What about the loft area?
Well, yes, with 5 bedrooms, we can need 3. So, and a condition that the loft area cannot be used for habitable accommodation.
Yes.
Right, so no objection? Or
In principle, no objection. Concern on the lack of, concern for provision of parking and a condition and suggested propose a condition should be that the existing or the garage can only be used for the storage of a motor car. And it's not wide enough, they have to make it wide enough. And that the planned loft accommodation cannot be used as a habitable area.
It's a procedure comment that council will have to drive his smart round and make sure they can get out of it.
Okay, is that you happy with that?
Yeah, and then obviously the conservation area policies, because it's listed.
Yeah. So, it must comply with the conservation area policies. We're not conservation officers, so I don't know what they might come up with.
Yes. Yeah, correct.
If you were to have the car before we started, was regarding the school application. Carl's had 97 letters so far regarding the school application. All exactly the same, all just signed. They're all the same. What he did say is that obviously it's going to planning meeting on the 27th of November. Full council meeting on the 27th of November, and it will be, the public will be allowed to have a quarter of an hour under public questions, and one person will be allowed to speak when it's actually at the initial discussion, or one or possibly 2. So if anybody asks you, it will come for discussion on that night. So just going down from there, we've got right, next one, we've done Ramble Park, sorry,
I wanted to raise a query on, it was near the bottom of page 16, but I'll wait till you get to it. Beautiful.
Yeah, happy to. So, are you referring to Old's Gardens?
No, sorry, No, it's, so, what you sort of going past it, that's all. Sorry, where are you?
No, we've got two committees, 5 medical close to me. We're doing next, look right at the bottom of 16.
Right, bottom of 16.
Just wanted to check out this one for me. Forest maintenance. The roof design, they were changing the roof design, and I'm not so sure.
Leave the dream up, please.
Have a look and see what we have in common. So that's the original house.
Can you just clarify which number we're on?
Bottom of page 6,
15.
15, sorry,
Good, I was going to say.
15. Sorry,
Bottom of page 16, we've missed one.
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
right. 264.
My apologies, 15, sorry,
Alright.
I'm planning my life ahead. So this was 2017 2644, first floor rear extension and raising and extensions to roof with roof lights to create habitable roof accommodation. 5 Mayfield Close. In principle, I wasn't too against this until I saw the actual plans and the picture.
I was concerned that it might impact on number 6 Mayfield Close.
I think there's projection. I don't see anything. Pictures. I looked at it, it's really bad.
It has side windows which appear to be habitable rooms at number 6. So that was the reason I was a little bit concerned.
So we can see.
So, looking for 6 Mayfield Close. Do you want to look at the street view?
Yes. Please. It's just totally against the street.
Right.
Yeah, street view.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
I'm going to be really stuck if they wanted that caravan perched on that roof.
No, I mean, actually, having looked at this before, and then looked at it now, the plan's in the correct size, I think,
Dominant street scene out of keeping, etc.
Yes,
My usual monologue.
out of keeping with the street scene,
Yeah.
and
How are we doing on parking?
and design.
And we've got the usual parking. Let's have a look.
think it's 2 spaces.
4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms,
3 spaces,
6 bedrooms,
4 spaces.
and a flat roof in the middle. That's weird.
Is that one, isn't it?
Yes.
Plenty of parking, that was.
What, 6 bedrooms?
Yeah, you could actually
Yes,
do
could.
4 spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could actually get 4 spaces there. You could, with
Yeah.
concrete over the front gardens. So. Yes, the impact on number 6.
Yeah.
So, right. So recommending refusal
With gusto.
Yeah.
due to street scene. We have to look at the condition numbers. Design. Impact on number 6. Or you could say impact on neighbouring properties.
Yeah.
And that covers both.
Yes.
And car parking is not, well, think that's probably is
I think you could get enough cars on that, actually.
yeah, no, the car
Yeah.
park is all right,
Yes,
yeah.
I think
You get 3 there.
yes.
Or certainly 2.
Yeah.
We've done that one.
Yeah, 2 there, and then you get 3 there, so you get a...
But of course, though, these windows and the loft sort of look out on other people, don't they?
Whilst we're saying impact on neighbours,
Impact on neighbours, yes.
and also privacy.
Yes.
So is that enough?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's... Is that...
That,
Right, thank you, team. Right, right, now we've got to page 16, sorry.
yeah,
17. Right,
yeah, within,
14 Willing Road. Right, single and 2-storey rear extension with balconies. First floor side extension, front porch extension, removal of hedgerow for driveway, alteration to openings and installation of roof lights following demolition of existing conservatory. What's my expert on?
well, I have to say I didn't go and see this one, I'm sorry. I went through this whole list and so I missed that.
And they've got a long garden, but
Yeah.
it's
Juliet balconies.
I mean, you all know my view on Juliet balconies unless it's in the country.
Juliet.
Pardon?
I'm not quite sure about Juliet because effectively.
If you usually open a door and stand on it, yeah.
Oh, you shouldn't be able to do that with a true Juliet.
Is it not?
You open the doors inwards, not outwards. If it's outwards, it's a balcony.
You can look out,
Yeah.
can't
You
you?
can look out for
Yeah,
it.
but I'm saying, if you've got a window there, you've
Yeah.
basically only got the space there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but it's
But it's certainly balconies that really concern me that you can get
Yeah.
out.
In the middle of the hedgerow is one thing, because it was just
Yes,
a
that's
bit
right.
of hedgerow that was just an extra bit that was sitting across the driveway that's
Right.
already there. So nothing.
It's hard to confuse that, though, isn't it? Because it,
Pretty soon, how are we doing that one? Windows.
with the picture.
can we just,
Right, got it, so I can find where I am.
Yeah, 14 Willing Road.
Didn't come where it was, but maybe it's up by the school.
I think I was concerned about the hedgerow for the property as well. I don't know which one it is. Oh, there it is. This is the one here.
okay, yeah.
Let's go on.
Edge.
Right, that's the bit of hedge that led us to the window.
Yeah.
We can see. No, which one?
It's from the older type houses down there.
So this is going to be coming in and out.
We're
Driveway.
going to build above the garage on the right, aren't we?
This bit
Yeah, that bit's going to be built up.
So if they're going to build there,
Yep. So there's an
There isn't a
impact
window
on-
in the end of that one. There is something in that one to the right. There's something in its extension, isn't there?
here.
Yeah. No, that's not in the main building. Though, that's
Is it optical illusion or is it a funny angle? The house. It looks like half sideways to me. Perhaps it's so I'm looking at it sideways here.
No, I think what skews the eye is the bit of extension on the back of the one to the right.
Oh, it could be, yeah.
If you took that bit off and just went to the ordinary pitch gable end, it wouldn't look quite so peculiar.
That one, please. The plans and that's it, there's another couple of things. So, isn't there I'm not sure what quite as tall as this is, but it's a 45-degree rule. It comes out a long way in front of number 16 as well.
Okay.
Yeah, fresh air.
What one was that one again?
12.
Oh, that was all I was concerned about.
Because right now, it's, no, it's something, something on the side, it's number 16 that's going to have the biggest effect, is it? There's a rear view effect from 12. It does look huge compared to all the neighbouring properties, doesn't it?
Well, we could say concerns about the bulk
Yeah, the size, bulk and scale, because it,
and the impact on neighbouring.
yeah, on neighbouring properties.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
the bulk is impacting the logo at the side and the back,
that's right, yes.
not really the front.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, these people.
Actually, the front's not doing a great deal,
No.
is it? It's
No,
pretty innocuous,
It's-
but it's when you get round to the side and the back.
Yeah. So we could say we have a concern with the impact on neighbouring properties and the bulk of the new design and the bulk of the design.
I think, to be honest, it doesn't match the streets and.
Well, no. Well, we can say that as well.
That one. On the front, Rod, it's only it's very little on there on the front.
It's more the back going.
It's literally just that
Yes, you're right.
bit
Yes.
there.
Yes, you are
But
right.
they've got a nice hipped roof on it. What's it? No, not okay. Then it's not exactly hipped either. It's. I mean, had they gone for a flat gable end on there, they'd be jumping up and
Yes, I
down.
agree.
But they've actually sloped that
Yeah,
roof.
you're all right. Yeah.
It's not very great at all.
It's just really
So we won't say street view, but we will say its bulk and the impact on adjoining properties, neighbouring properties or adjoining properties. No, it's not adjoining. It's not next. It's not
No,
adjoining.
it's not
It's
adjoining.
neighbouring properties. Yeah.
express
Are you all happy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So I just.
Paul Barnes Road.
Oh, sorry, keep going. 4 Barnes Road, local, yeah.
The next one.
Yeah. 4 Barnes, no objection to one unit and one to the
Yeah.
property, yeah.
I'm happy with that. What Lynn said. Are you all happy with that?
Yeah.
Lynn said?
You're happy with that now, are you?
Yeah. Right, we move forward now to 5/2017-2797, construction of 2 one-bedroom flats,
Sorry, can I just
26 and 26A Holybush Lane. Sorry, Rob.
May I just raise a point about 8U, because this doesn't meet our criteria, but it just highlights the point though with loft conversions that they create a loft space, so loft room, and that sort of thing, which could be turned into a bedroom, you see, and limited parking. It's just a point of procedure. But normally,
I'm happy for us to change that if Lynn's happy. So concerned the possibility that this will become a habitable room
yes,
with no additional car parking space.
that's right, yes. Yes, sorry. It's miles away, it's well away from the...
Yeah, thank you.
Don't
Don't do that to me.
There's nothing, because looking out on me or anything. I just saw it because I saw loft conversion. I thought I'd look it up.
And you have to change that in that respect. Possibility to turn out with no additional car parking space, or no additional provision for parking. however you explain it, or black and white.
Other than that, it was quite a modest change. Thank you, Chair.
Right, are we going back
Yeah,
now
sorry.
to Hollywood Lane?
Yep.
Which is I can't work out with this, because we already have an application pending at the District Council for construction of 2 semi-detached dwellings.
That's right, yes.
Right, so is this in addition to that on the site? In other words, why not put the applications in together? Why put them in separately?
Yes. May I make a point?
Yeah, please.
Because I parked and I walked up to them, and I was just as confused as you, because I thought, hang on, there's only room for the 2 semi-detached that are there. And I could parking.
As you come over the bridge from the old Sunlane Bridge, it's the one on the left, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
immediately, in fact, on the railway line.
Yeah, this was slightly contentious on the last.
It's gone to Plans North, I think.
When I sat on the last plans committee.
It came to Plans North back in 2016, last year. It's, I don't understand it, and I think with one application already pending, if that is refused, this one has to be refused, because we don't want to grant for 2 one-bedroom flats and find that the District Council refused 2 semi-detached dwellings.
Yes, I agree.
So my view on this one would be that depending on the impact of the existing planning application, we'll put the number in, only at that time could a recommendation be made on the current application.
Yeah, I agree.
So it is, I say that.
I said this application shouldn't be considered until the other one has been
Yeah,
determined.
because we've got this one there, which is under consideration, and then let's throw this in, but if that's refused, we don't want to end up with that, because that will be in the middle of nowhere. But it's not instead of that.
No.
Are you with me? So I don't understand, if this is granted with conditions, that would limit what we could do there. Or indeed parking.
So my wording literally was if it's acceptable and if it's acceptable further up the road. Is that it shouldn't be considered until the first one's been determined.
Yeah, that's on the same site.
Yeah.
It defeats the object completely.
I don't know what the rules are currently with regards to more than one
But
plan.
because we can only advise,
Yeah.
we don't know.
In fact, we give that latitude to say what we
We've got no
want.
guidance on those 2,
Yeah.
on the existing ones, the 2 semis, and to think that we've got to decide on that without knowing the conditions on that, it defeats the object. So, as far as I'm concerned, that the committee were unable to give the recommendation on this application with the 5/2017-2527 on the same site, still under consideration from SADC. So it's 5/2017-2527, still under consideration on the same site. Are you all happy with that? Because I'm confused completely of why someone should put 2 applications in when it just confuses.
There's been a continued history of contention.
It came to Plans North
Just
in
leave it at that one at the
2016.
moment.
Yeah. Because it's got, because it's actually a listed building, isn't it? It is the actual building that's there. But I think it's now derelict. Or it's used as, no, it might be cast leather, I think it, or it's, it can't be, it could be that because the railway line, there's a limit to what you can do to the actual building.
Yes, yes.
So,
It's,
right.
it's suitably close to the station that if it's derelict, somebody will take it down.
So, right. And you go down to the next one down. 5 to 2017 2804. Single and two-storey side extension, single-storey front and rear extension, front and rear dormer windows, construction of a swimming pool in the basement, and installation of roof lights following demolition of an existing garage and carport, 30 Newton Road. My immediate reaction on this is it's a listed building, I think. Locally listed. And addition of dormer windows on a locally listed building is, I think, as far as district's concerned, is not on.
I understand. Can I break
Please,
it?
no.
Because I've had a little bit of property. The tragedy is it's on a lovely plot. It's a derelict looking building, isn't it? Looks as though it's no one's living there. Very large plot. If it wasn't for that listed building bit, I would really be saying there's just flats opposite. There's no one near it. So if it wasn't, it's the listed building bit, because I couldn't see a problem with what they were trying to do.
No, I think they said they're trying to put it back to as it was original design.
Oh, I see.
But the dormer windows make it look, I'm sorry, out of keeping with the original design, which is what they're saying they're trying to do in keeping.
Yeah.
So if they took the dormer windows away, I actually wouldn't be against it, because I don't mind the swimming pool in the basement. But the dormer windows just spoil it.
Yeah, because it just falling apart, isn't it? The way the building looks when you look at
Yeah.
it.
Are you sympathetic with that?
So I'm doing expressing concern or the refusal.
I would say recommend refusal. I said,
I'm happy.
in principle, happy with the development, but would recommend refusal due to the dormer windows on a locally listed building.
That's fine.
Are you happy with that? With that? Is that okay? Can you manage that? In principle, I like what they're trying to do,
Yes.
but it's just the dormer windows. Sort of push it a little bit OTT. Right, so next to objection. We had those ones in today, which we discussed earlier for those pillars on the payment. No appeals? Pending? No prior notification? Sorry. 19 and 20. So next to objection. We had those ones in today, which we discussed earlier for those pillars on the payment. No appeals? Pending? No prior notification? Sorry. 19 and 20.
Yes, there was, 19 and 20.
Right, prior notification, Coney Heath, Harpenden West. 1 more application, change of use of offices to residential. Interesting.
Which page you on?
We're on page 19 now. Interesting. We haven't got a formal planning application yet for that. That would concern me if we're allowed to do, because we're making into the neighbourhood plan, Southland Industrial Estate, which is part of this, must be protected as for employment purposes, except for the house that already exists.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, we consider this under the neighbourhood plan, yeah. Interesting.
So, do we actually make comments on? No, because it's not actually a formal planning application. It's just an application for prior approval. I would hope that the officers say no, but unfortunately. So that's the only one. Is there any more on the page? No, page 20 is blank. Right, list of decisions, we've done all that. Application for tree works. Date of next meeting, plans north is Monday the 13th of November. Okay, do you find it interesting?
Yes,
Or has it changed?
Yes and no. I mean, it's trying to judge, I'm not going to put in a planning application, it's just listening to the way that you need to look at things and whether things do and don't affect the neighbourhood and where the line stops.
Yeah, I mean...
And you can read the paperwork, but sometimes I just kind of need to get it straight in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, what I try and do is make it as informal but as positive as we can do, considering we have no power. And I think, in the long run,
that's the problem.
we look at it one way. A planning officer who is trained to look at it with planning rules might look at it completely different. So we only give our opinion. Indeed, which is why things get called in and they then come to committee. The problem with the committee is 4 from St Albans, 2 from Redbourne and 2 from Wheathampstead. And unless the people know Harpenden, 4 from Harpenden, 2 from Redbourne, 2 from Wheathampstead, unless the people know the area in Harpenden, it's very difficult to convince the Redbourne and Wheathampstead people to support our thoughts. But
anyway,
I try.
Brilliant. Thanks very much indeed.
That's okay, thank you. So, you're trying to give me a message here.
Yeah.
Okay. Make sure it's good. Yeah, hold on, yeah. Okay, meeting value. Thank you very much, team. So it's a bit difficult tonight.
Abandoned, did you say?